Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War II, World at War, in our Allied Let's Play. So we've played through the game as the Axis, and today we're returning to the game playing as the Allies. We've just completed the November 10th turn. Warsaw has fallen, Poland has fallen to the Germans, and now we presume the assaults on Norway and Denmark may begin before too long, and then eventually the drive on France as well. With that being said, tomorrow will probably be our War in the Pacific episode, our next episode with XTRG. I will try and stream it tonight at around 10:30 Central Standard Time. I had intended to do this earlier, but frankly, guys, I'm sorry. I just had a lot going on, and I've just been a little bit busy. So I've been a little bit slower this week, but do hope to get that out tomorrow. And then also, I'm thinking of looking at Axis and Allies Online, which recently came out, at least in an early access form, as well as a couple other things on my plate, and also maybe a little bit more fantasy general. With that being said, let's jump in right here, right away. We've pretty much already done our turn as the Allies. We've already spent our reinforcements as the British and the French. We don't have enough money to do the research we want to as the US or as the Soviet Union. We've positioned our vessels, and we have some naval vessels hunting south, I think for the Graf Spee. And we've also bulked our naval forces up here in the southern of France, so that when Italy declares, we can make a bold strike against the Italian fleet, trying to knock it out of the war quickly. In addition to that, we're kind of trying to blockade in the German subs here with some naval dispositions in both the Channel and the North Sea. And then in China, China's obviously holding out against the Japanese. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in and end the November 10th turn, and we'll see what happens here. Okay, so Germany is celebrating the victory over Poland and the return of Danzig. French morale suffers from the fall of Poland. There are tens of thousands of Spanish Republicans living in internment camps in the south of France. Some of these have already enlisted in the Foreign Legion, but we could make use of many more of them to assist in work of improving our fortifications. Although many of these exiles are political undesirables, putting them to work would enable us to get some of them use out of them, while also helping improve our country's defenses. At a cost of 50 MPPs from the men held in the internment camps, we could raise a half-strength engineer unit in Perpetang in the southwest. It would then need to be moved north so that it could commence work on constructing fortifications facing the possible German lines of advance. Would you like to authorize the recruitment of Spanish Republicans to serve as engineers? Is there any reason not to? France made use of the large number of Spanish Republican exiles who were living in camps in southern France by enlisting them in labor battalions to improve defenses. By saying yes to this, France may be able to construct a fortification in time to be of use against Axis invaders, maybe more if the enemy offensive stalls. It would be best to operate it from southern France to a suitable place for it to set work, such as near Paris. If all else fails, then you can serve a role plugging a hole in the line, so it would be wise to say yes to this. Doesn't seem to really be a big reason no. I mean, the 50 MPPs is kind of costly, but, you know, to be able to extend that fortification past Metz, perhaps even facing Belgium, would be a decent idea. British economy starting to heat up a little bit. It's up to 260 MPPs per turn. France is at 128, but we lose 50 for the engineer. US 93, USSR 66. So it doesn't actually look like we're losing the money I thought we'd be losing. I always thought you lost half your income if you didn't spend it carrying over, but I could be wrong on that. I guess I must be wrong on that. What game? There's a game where you lose half of it. I must be confusing this with something else. Meanwhile, we're into the Axis turn here. We'll see what the Japanese are doing. Looks like the Japanese are actually hitting our army units in the south of France with Japanese aircraft carriers, making land-based bombing attacks. They also have some land-based bombers making some attacks in China. More carriers here. These guys are attacking our headquarter unit. Japanese are attacking a unit in fortifications there in central China. Some Marines are attacking, some infantry, some attacks against Hedang. So pretty generalized defensive against the Chinese here in this turn. Meanwhile, Germany is starting to move their forces west, and this is really where The game gives a big advantage to the AI over the human player. The human player has to pay to operate units across the map, which means when you take Poland or you take France, it takes a while to get troops back to the other side, which kind of keeps you pretty heavily tied to the historical invasion schedules, but it also means that you can easily fall behind, whereas in the Axis player doesn't have that disadvantage, so they can actually be a little bit more aggressive. The Soviet aggression against Finland causes widespread anger in the West. So the Soviets are going to war against Finland, the Winter War. I don't have any troops nearby. Do I actually fight that war, or is that just simulated? Looks like we're getting a Canadian destroyer, so we'll put that here. Do I actually need to fight this as Russia? That's my question. Because I did not move any troops into Finland to fight them. I mean, it doesn't look like it. I'm not quite sure. Okay. I mean, we'll move some troops in that direction, I guess. I don't really want to be spending a whole bunch of money moving units and troops around if it's not relevant. I guess we'll see. We'll move one more unit. Just in case. I'd love to take Helsinki and force a peace on them, but I don't know, because I haven't played as the Soviets before. So, anyway, we'll see what happens there. It doesn't look like I can actually invade them yet. Meanwhile, in France, you can see the Germans have brought some armored units west. The French... Where's this engineer unit? Is it not raised yet? Doesn't look like it's raised yet. Okay, so the French front line is pretty much all reinforced now. Everything, all the infantry is at 10 out of 10. We've got about 66 left. Actually, let's do this. Let's reinforce the one French army we have. I could use a second army, but I'm not going to get the money to actually use it. It'd be interesting to invade Belgium as the Allies and try and swing around and flank the Germans before they're ready. But that's probably not a wise idea. Reinforce these guys. Okay. Right, we have a French battleship trying to find the Germans, who don't seem to be located on any of our supply lines down here. So maybe we want to move the British fleet into the Mediterranean, where we can crush the Italians, because I'm assuming the Italians will eventually get into a war with us. So we'll reinforce... Oh, there is a German ship down here, deep in the South Atlantic. So now that I just diverted the forces that were diverted toward dealing with them. Okay, so we've still got these. I'd like to hit their... Alright, we're going to move the sub into the Baltic, and we're going to try and knock out the German ore convoys from Sweden, as well as our destroyers and cruisers already raiding the German ore convoys from Norway. Meanwhile, we already did Russia. I'm not going to touch the rest. I don't want to waste money if I don't have to. France, we already spent our money. Britain still has a bit of money. Do you want to spend it on reinforcing these guys? Doesn't look like we can reinforce past 8. Which is weird. Probably want mobility on these guys too, since they're going to be operating in the desert. I guess maybe we need to reinforce the army to 10, and then we can reinforce the troops. You can see there's the British. We just spent a bunch of money. Okay. So obviously we're going to attack Italian Ethiopia whenever the war is declared. And it wouldn't be these armies probably would be useful in moving down here as well. There's a rail line down to Khartoum, so we could move them toward Addis Ababa once the time comes. But that kind of does it for the European theater. So moving over to the Chinese theater, gonna try and keep these troops who are getting attacked up to full strength. This army got hit pretty bad. Unfortunately, I just have to reinforce it and keep it where it is. Fortunately for us, the Japanese took some casualties too. Okay. We'll attack there. Alright, so we did some damage to that unit. I don't have any other money to reinforce our air unit. Probably should have spent some money reinforcing southern China. Why is he can't attack him successfully? I mean, you're attacking a goddamn enemy headquarters and you can't do anything against it? Alright, so move this guy down here. He's fresh against the Japanese headquarters there. Alright, so we shifted some troops around in southern China. Move these troops north. See if maybe we can do more damage to the Okaruma headquarters unit. I don't think I have money to reinforce any of these troops. Okay. We'll flank this guy. Good, we didn't lose any damage there. Nice. Alright, so we drove that Japanese unit back. Okay. Keep that unit in Chongqing. So we did some reasonable damage to a Japanese headquarters unit in the south. We drove this army back, nearly destroyed it. Holding out here near Wuhan. And that's probably going to do it for the Chinese. The Indians are building up their resources. The U.S. is up to 200 income. We can spend that U.S. money on... What do we want to research? Probably infantry weapons for the U.S. So we'll spend that money. The Soviets were going to... Do we want to spend the 100 that we have left over on them for anything? Logistics wouldn't be a disastrous idea. Spying and intelligence, I don't have enough money for. Aerial warfare is probably important, but I'm going to save it up for something more meaningful next turn. Yeah, so let's go ahead and fast forward here to the second turn in December, which will get us toward February or January. So France is raising an engineer unit. Engineers in China extend the fortifications north of Yichang. The USSR is expelled from the League of Nations following the attack on Finland. And there's your income. And we'll see what the Germans and Japanese do this turn. We're kind of into the Phony War, or the Winter War, whichever. Maybe the next one's the Phony War. We'll see. We'll see if they actually wait till spring to attack. It's going to be January in the next turn. So we'll have the January, the February, and then maybe the March turn before the actual attack, if they follow historical timelines, which is definitely not a given. Japanese continue their attack in, I guess, kind of all over in China. Doing very serious damage to this army unit down here in the south. We'll have to cycle him out almost certainly, assuming he survives and they don't launch another attack there. Meanwhile, we can see a little bit of movement in France. Okay. German paratroops deploy at Hamburg. Foreign Minister reports diplomatic success in Spain, which switches 6% to the Axis. I'm not even spending any money on diplomacy. The IRA attacks Dublin's Phoenix Park magazine fort. What does that actually do? I don't know what that means. Is that just a historical flavor thing, or is that something that actually matters for the game? Thousands of Polish soldiers who have escaped Poland are arriving in France as they wish to carry on the struggle against Germany. Just as we formed a Polish army in France in 1918, the new Polish Prime Minister, Władysław Sikorski, asks that we do the same again today. He therefore asks permission to form a Polish First Corps on our soil. It will cost us 50 MPP at 25 for 2 turns. To help create and train this new Polish Corps, it will be formed near Paris. Yeah, anything we can do to get more troops. First Polish Corps formed in France. All right. Meanwhile, we're getting some new destroyers here in England. The French are getting some new warships too. Can we deploy these in the south of France? Nope. Looks like we have to deploy them in Africa. All right. France at 132. All of this is spent and paid for. Do we need to upgrade these fighters to something better? Ooh, we can upgrade them to slightly better units. Alright, so our tactical bombers are kitted out now. The French troops are all along the front. I didn't save enough money to operate these guys anywhere. So that was a mistake. They're probably not going to get anywhere in time. Reinforce these guys. Almost to full strength on the Italian border with one of our units. British units. I mean, honestly, we should be based within range of Taranto. So there's our British units. Move our French battleships down here. My goal is, while I've got the French, is to wipe out the Italian fleet. Easier said than done, of course, but that is my goal, is to use these French ships in a destructive strike against the Italian fleet. Okay. Alright, so that does it for France. For England, I mean, we've still got the troops here. Move this headquarter unit forward a little bit. Really, I think we need to move sort of a second line of troops in here behind the fortifications. So we'll form a second line of defenses, if you will. So we're anchoring on the fortifications at Metz. These fortifications, I'm assuming, we'll be able to hold here along the Maginot Line with our strong forces here. And then we'll have a front line of French troops, followed by a second line of British troops toward the northern coast. Really need to bring one of those colonials in before the Phony War ends here. Can we... Oh, okay, so we can reinforce these guys to full strength now. Alright, so, and I'm not going to forget, the British need to be spending more money on research right now. So we're already researching infantry weapons and advanced tanks. We need to research advanced fighters. So we just spent that money on advanced fighters. Got about 30 something left. I think we'll just carry it over for the next turn. So that's going to be the British turn, with the exception of maybe we'll move these guys down south. I don't know where the German raider is now. If he's even still on the supply lines. Okay. I'm never going to find this one lone German ship. I'm not very good at commerce warfare. Okay, so we've got those destroyers in action. We just deployed new destroyers. Winter War. It does look like we wasted our money because we don't actually get to command these troops. So it does look like we wasted our money as spending what we spent for the Russians to move some troops around. We don't have enough money for infantry weapons. Alright, so we'll have to wait to have a little bit more money as the Soviet Union until next turn. Meanwhile, moving back to China. How are our troops holding up? Alright, these guys need to reinforce back to full strength. This army needs to pull out. We'll move this army. Oh, shit. Oh, we can move it. Is there morale fall for doing that? Fuck. Well, that sucks. Alright. So, do we want to reinforce? We can get these guys up to 50. They're going to lose half their experience, though. But they will, I guess, hang in there. Meanwhile, we added new fortifications here in front of Yichang. I think maybe we move north toward Changchou. Let's see about digging in there. That's interesting. Let's do that. Nice, 2-1. That's a good result. Alright, so we did some damage to that Japanese army. Nice. Don't call it an offensive in southern China, but it's an offensive. Driving that guy back. Nice. He's down to 2 strength. Shit. I can't move anyone back into that fortification. Shit. I can move these guys, but I don't want to. Let's see what we do down here. Nice. Alright, that was a good result. We did a lot of damage to that Japanese army. They're probably going to have to spend money reinforcing it. I don't have money to operate anyone, do I? move them there. Alright, well, I guess I'll move a garrison in. Guess I'll move the garrison in. It'll be dug in slightly. Maybe the Japanese won't attack it. There's a good chance they will, though, and they'll drive through to Changsha, so I guess we'll pull some of these troops back and around. Anyway, southern offensive in China, driving the Japanese back a little bit. Doing a little bit of damage here near Pakoi against the Chinese or Japanese headquarter unit there. Meanwhile, I think we'll avoid spending the bulk of the rest of our money. Like, do I really want to spend 75 points to reinforce a fighter unit that's just going to get decimated again? Probably can spend the money on the headquarter, on the infantry. I guess we will upgrade the fighters. Or spend the money. We just need to make sure that we're also investing heavily. But this turn can kind of be a reinforcement turn for some of these units around the map. Okay. Alright, so China, I think, is doing okay, I think. It's kind of hard to tell. I don't want to expose any of my corps to easy attacks here. So we'll leave them as is. Alright, so we're in good strength in Egypt. 3 units, an army, 2 armies, and a corps, all at full strength, and a headquarter unit. Ready to drive against the Italians as soon as they declare war. We've got some units also ready to drive on Italian East Africa. Whenever that happens, I really need to get this South African corps back to, like, ports so we can bring it north. And then the Americans have 134 points. Can we do diplomacy with anything? No. We'll save that American money until next turn. And I think that'll do it for this turn. Let's do one more turn. I guess we'll call this the Phony War. Since I can't actually fight the Russians against the French, we'll just call this episode the Phony War. The Irish Republic imprisons hundreds of IRA activists. Weygand becomes the French commander-in-chief and calls on France to evoke the spirit of 1789 and 1914. Weygand. Okay. We'll see what happens here as we move into the next turn of what I'm hoping remains the Phony War. Italy deploys General Grazzani. I don't know if he's like someone famous or not. Other than the game told me they're deploying General Grazzani. Alright, some Japanese reinforcements for this army here and also to their headquarter unit near Pakoi. They actually didn't do a ton of reinforcing. Meanwhile, our fighters get shot to pieces right away as soon as the Japanese start to bomb our troops in China. Meanwhile, the weather is at least temporarily helping our defensive. You can see here they are still attacking that sort of salient of fortifications. They also attacked that garrison unit near Changsha, although they did not destroy it, at least not yet. Okay. So the Japanese continue to kind of slug it out here in China, but they haven't actually overrun us yet. And they haven't really made much progress at all yet. Oh, I forgot about my submarines last turn, didn't I? Yes, I did. Alright. Southampton. So we lost 9 MPPs for German, or no, we inflicted 9 MPPs against Germany. All right. General Weygand proposes that together with the British, we send a military expedition to Finland to enable them to resist the Red Army. If we do this to assist the Finns, the British will be obliged to follow suit, as British public opinion and their first Sea Lord, Winston Churchill, are strongly in favor of doing so. For a cost of 150 MPPs to be shared evenly between Britain and France, this support could halt the Soviet dictator's aggression in the Baltic. However, given the logistics involved in this mission, it only has a 50% chance of success. Yet, whether successful or not, units comprising the expedition will return to Scotland in early April 1940. Would you like to send a joint Anglo-French expedition? Why would we do that? This expedition has a 50% chance of reaching Finland in time to provide them with enough support to withstand the Soviet onslaught. If successful, the USSR will not gain any Finnish territory as a result of the conflict with the USSR. The USSR will move 8 to 12% to the Axis. For their decisive action in helping defeat aggression against a neutral country, France and the UK will both gain 500 national morale points, and Finland will swing 25 to 35% toward the Allies. This will give Finland a pro-Allied leaning, virtually guaranteeing her neutrality for the foreseeable future. If the mission doesn't arrive in time, then Finland will be forced to cede territory to the USSR in March 1940. Whether successful or not, the Anglo-French expedition will return to Scotland at the start of April 1940 with a French strength 8th Special Forces unit of Chasseurs Alpines deploying in Aberdeen with full research, while a similar British unit called Rupert Force will deploy it in Inverness. If Germany invades Norway via DE 613 or DE 614, then the Allies will have an opportunity to send these units to Narvik to attempt to recapture the town. The opportunity will not exist for this expedition if it is not sent, so it's recommended to do so by saying yes. Why would I say no? I guess it would be to preserve some income. So I just clicked yes. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, this sub needs to... It can't he can't get into the Baltic. I just assumed he'd get into the Baltic. Guess not. Alright. Fall him back there. Meanwhile, let's not forget about our boys in the South Atlantic. Still not sure where that German is. If he's even... he's not even raiding the convoys. So he's probably not even here. I'm not even really looking at intelligence. It might give me a better idea of where he's at. Alright, so Italy's deploying whatever the name of that general was again. Bringing more of the Italian fleet into the Mediterranean, or the French fleet. Meanwhile, I forget who we have to... Who do we have? We have to keep troops in Damascus. I think and Algiers, but not necessarily Tunis. So we'll go ahead and do this. Transport these guys up to France. Unload them there. Okay, so one additional unit in France. I think I forgot about the engineers last turn too. So that's another problem. Reinforcements here. Okay. We also need to reinforce these fighters. And then start reinforcing this corps of infantry. So we've got a chance to resist the Italians, hopefully. Alright, so all those additional troops, reinforcements, etc. And that should do it for the French moves. Britain, I'm going to do a little bit more research. I want to get my research spending up, so we're going to research. We're already researching 2 level of advanced tanks. We're researching 1 level of advanced infantry weapons. I'm actually going to research a 2nd level of infantry weapons. So we're almost to the maximum for British research spending. The US is not anywhere near the maximum, so we're actually going to do a 2nd infantry weapon spend for the US. The USSR now has 220 as well, so we're actually going to do infantry weapons for them. So investing heavily where we're able in various advanced infantry units. I feel like infantry units are kind of the most important investment. China's actually already researching, and we could do another investment point, but let's stabilize the situation here first. So move these guys here, pull that garrison back to Changsha. Okay. Alright, so we'll move these guys here, attack that. Pull them back. Alright, so we did more damage to that Chinese, or that Japanese army. Meanwhile, this headquarter unit might actually get destroyed. If we're a little bit lucky. Okay. Boom goes the dynamite. Japanese headquarter unit in southern China is destroyed. Alright, let's spend that. That still leaves us with enough. Oh no, we spent just a little too much money. God damn it. Alright, so we have successfully taken Pakoi from the Japanese. And we've also destroyed a Chinese or Japanese headquarter unit here in the south of China. Alright, so the south of China front is actually reasonably okay. I guess we'll spend money on reinforcements now. Okay. Set mode fortify. And we're just going to do that direction. I'm going to pull this army back. I'm going to move this army. Oh, shit. So we'll just shift our forces all north. 1. Okay. Interesting. Wow. We did quite a bit of damage there to those guys. Okay, so we did quite a bit of damage to a Chinese or Japanese division up here in northern China. Reinforced most of our units around here. Alright. So that situation is good. This unit is in trouble near Tsingwan. We destroyed one headquarters unit. Another Japanese infantry unit here is a little bit of trouble as well. South of Nanqing. Rest of our fortifications are largely holding in place for the moment. The biggest risk is probably this salient unit here just to the east of Changchao, which is now a core unit. But the Japanese attacking are at least somewhat worn down. Tomorrow we'll do the research for the Chinese, or the next turn we'll do the research for the Chinese to get their infantry weapons up. The British, meanwhile... We need to get these South African forces in play. Meanwhile, since the Italians are probably going to war, we'll go ahead and operate one army south toward Khartoum. Okay. All right. All right. So I think we're ready there. Can we operate one more of these guys south? We can. Corps, not the army. That's fine. So we'll actually have a pretty considerable force, I think, then. 2 corps, 3 corps. Let them move there. These guys will move to Cairo. Meanwhile, the naval forces are in place. Move this guy ahead. And move this guy over this way, too. I'm going to crush the Italian Navy. It's going to be a Copenhagen. Okay. All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode. We moved through 3 turns, and the next one we'll be getting into March. Probably 2 turns to the winter, to the offensive against us. The Soviet Union apparently doesn't actually have to worry about fighting the Winter War, so kind of reinforce some units there. Spent a bunch of money operating some of these guys. Hopefully Finland is defeated, and that prevents them from going to war with the Axis. I think I'm actually going to start putting troops for the Soviets forward to the border, because it is going to take a while for some of these troops to get into position. Especially without, spending a whole bunch of money. I wonder if we're going to get the chance to take the Baltic states. We still got a while before any sort of war. Likely a while before any sort of war. And a forward defense for the Soviets might not actually be the wisest move. But my hope is it slows them down. I know I have some troops on the Japanese border. I don't want to move them just yet. So leave them there. I mean, we need more units. Do we have... So, like, if we go to production... You see the Chinese have 4 more units already in production. Do the Soviets have anything? Oh, yeah. Soviets have a lot. Some of these not coming in until after the likely invasion date, but they've got several units in any event coming before too long. January 41, March 41, March 44, April 43, August 43, 42, September 41 or 40, September 40, September 41, 41, 41, December 41, 41, 41. Okay. All right. Well, that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode. Actually, yeah, we'll move him over this way too. So move him here. And move him here. Okay, so we've got a 4-corps front or 4-army front here in front of Romania. Probably don't want onto this border into these passes. Probably just want to go like this to Premzel and then north. Might shorten our front a bit. In any event, we don't have enough troops. We're going to need to start buying some. Or maybe we'll get some more as things mobilize, like event-driven. I don't know. In any event, that's enough of me rambling. Let's go ahead and jump out of this episode, and I will catch up with you guys next time. Until next time, though, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.